Hey, what is up? Welcome to this episode of the Entrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian Lofermento, and I am so very excited for today's episode because we don't just have one amazing entrepreneur or one amazing guest in today's episode. We've got two incredible guests and entrepreneurs. Even when it comes to tech troubleshooting together for this interview, I can already tell that they have such amazing energy as a duo, as a team, and I'm so excited to hear about their entrepreneurial journey leading up to this. So let me tell you about today's guests. Their name are Tim and Chelsie Wolter. Together, they are the co-founders of SafetyVue, which is revolutionizing construction safety with their AI-powered platform called SafetyVue Insights. Now, what's really cool is that I love the background that Tim and Chelsie individually and collectively bring to the work that they do at SafetyVue. Tim himself is a construction industry veteran with over 12 years of hands-on experience on job sites and 15 years in hardware and software development. What a cool combination and intersection. And Chelsie Wolter is the co-founder and CXO of SafetyVue. She's a passionate nurse with a background in healthcare account management and sales. Her medical expertise and relationship building skills bring a human-centric approach to SafetyVue. So if you're thinking about having a co-founder and partnering up with someone that you love to build a business that makes a positive impact in the world, then you're all in for a treat today because we're going to learn a lot from Tim and Chelsie. I'm not going to say anything else. Let's dive straight into my interview with Tim and Chelsie Wolter. All right, Tim and Chelsie, I am so very excited that you're both here with us today. First things first, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, I am excited not only to learn from you both today, but to see how you navigate. Who's taking the mic first? And we're going to start it right away because I'm going to kick things over to the both of you and take us beyond the bio. Who's Tim? Who's Chelsie? What's SafetyVue? How did you start this cool business together?
Yeah, so there's really two catalyst events that started SafetyVue. One was our daughter was struggling in school, and it was like, how do we help people learn? And that's where adaptive learning came in. We started going down rabbit holes of psychology and understanding. And then to push forward, I have industry experience in construction, so it made sense. But a friend of mine got seriously injured on a construction site, cost over $4 million, but his life's never the change. He said he'd give back the money in a heartbeat just to, not have that happen to him. So how do we help companies be proactive on their safety, get ahead of the challenges, and reduce injuries, save lives? So.
Yeah, I love that.
I'm Chelsie.
Go ahead, Chelsie.
Yeah. So like you mentioned, my background is actually in healthcare. I've always had a natural instinct to care for other people. So when my lovely husband here had this vision for SafetyVue, it made me realize that there's even a bigger way to make a difference on a bigger scale. So I'm used to taking care of people after they've already been hurt. So just imagining being on the preventative side and being able to help solutionize that is just a whole different level.
Yeah, it's so awesome. I'm going to put you both on the spot really early on here in today's conversation because as someone who interviews entrepreneurs for a living, quite often I hear entrepreneurial stories where their spouse is a very important supporter and encourager of entrepreneurial dreams. You both obviously have each other when it comes to running this business together. I would argue that it loses a little bit of the stability and security because you're both in it. You've got all of your eggs. Both of you are working on your business. Talk to me about how the two of you navigated that together. When you guys had the idea for SafetyVue, was it immediately, let's both go into this, let's do this together? Or was it a little bit of navigation of how the heck are we logistically going to plan this for ourselves, for our family? How are we going to make it work?
Yeah. So, I was a COO of a software development company. And I was there when I met my lovely wife now. So I started transitioning out of that, and it was like, hey, we got to go all in on this. This is the future, adaptive learning. And initially it started out to help my daughter. I know nothing about education system. So it was navigating the entrepreneur world. I've done startups before, but they're all bootstrapped. So trying to get a SaaS product on the market, we work really good together, but it was like, what the hell? It was like, okay, we got to do this. And we started seeing all this traction and all interest. And it was like, okay, we're all in 100%. So now we're navigating this together, and it's a good working relationship, as well as our marriage is good. So, yeah.
Yeah, Chelsie, I need to ask you while we're here on the air, I need to get the wife's opinion on this, because obviously I love that quote. I'm going to out Tim here right off the bat, which is, behind every great man is an even greater woman. So Chelsie, you obviously have that nurturing in your DNA. It's obviously part of your professional career leading up to this. Talk to us about that, because Tim brings that tech background to the table. So I know that he probably feels very confident. He knew exactly what he was getting himself into. Chelsea, I can't wait to hear your perspective on it.
Yeah, I mean, it was a no-brainer. I mean, like Tim mentioned, we worked together before at the software company, so it was an immediate decision to launch this together. And we definitely both bring different aspects to it. He brings the business side, and I more bring that human-centric, emotional side of things. So I think together we collaborate really nicely, and it's actually helped, I think, with our communication. Building a business together is a whole different level. So we've definitely had to learn how each other thinks, how we communicate, and how we can work together to build this thing up.
Yeah, and I think it's such an important consideration, because you both are bringing not only your very unique backgrounds and perspectives to an industry that is incredibly important to cities, to society, to literally every element of the lives that we live. But I would argue, and Tim, I'm really excited to hear your perspective on this in particular, that the construction world, obviously, we've known about the way that they operate. The Industrial Revolution was so long ago, and still today we see so much of that groundwork, literally, that has been laid. Bringing this level of technology into that sphere, what has that transition been like? Are companies and people who you're serving, they immediately see it and they say, okay, this is that next wave. This is what we're looking for with regards to safety, or is it a little matter of education along the way as well?
There's definitely education. I mean, construction and technology are two industries that don't really mix, right? And that's part of my strength, is the ability to bridge that gap between the two. Because I was in it for so long. I was hit by a drunk driver, which forced my trajectory into more technology. So it helps on explaining and the understanding, and really that user-centric part, because I can get to the level of a construction worker and understand what they're facing, and not just, hey, I got this technology, it's going to help you out because I think so. I know it does. And that's how we're able to bridge that gap between the two. But as you said, construction is not as well adopting technology, but it's starting to pick up some because of the need for it. Yeah.
With that in mind, I do want to ask you about the logistics, and probably Chelsie will have some important insights here as well, because obviously humans drive this. We could talk about industries all day long within the world of business, but at the end of the day, any industry is just quite simply filled with people, with humans, with real life emotions, and relationships are at the core of it. Talk to us about the relationships that you build along the way, because I would imagine that working with both frontline employees and people on construction sites, as well as at the strategic level, at that business level, of saying this is something that we want to invest in, and this is something that we want to take seriously and embed into the way that we operate. What does that look like to navigate those conversations, that sales process, the adoption of a new technology? I'd love to hear insights there.
I mean, as far as the conversations that we've been on, they've actually been very receptive to it. And a lot of them have actually came up with more innovative ideas and utilizing VR in ways, that we had on our roadmap, but not something that we were going to implement now. So it's definitely showing that construction is willing to embrace technology, just because they are starting to be more innovative and think of ways that they can keep their workers safe.
And the mental health of it.
Yeah. And I mean, aside from just the physical injuries, you also have that emotional and mental aspect of safety that we're approaching as well, which is something that I'm very excited about. But eventually, construction they suffer from a lot of suicides and opioid use, alcohol use that nobody really talks about. So I would like to do a mental health program eventually. And also just with our training, it helps with their confidence and just boost the overall morale, just overall making it a safer workplace.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And Chelsie, that is just such a cool testament to the fact that you think outside of that world. I would imagine it's very easy when you're on a construction site to just think about the job at hand and not all that ancillary stuff that importantly comes with it, because we're all people and our job doesn't just stay in the office when we close that door at night. So with all of that in mind, I do want to ask you guys about, Chelsie introduced it to the conversation, that roadmap. Obviously, where you are today is awesome, and it's where you are currently. But of course, you do have that roadmap, whether it's regards to the technology, the features, the people that you want to serve. Talk to us about that bigger vision, what that roadmap looks like.
The ecosystem.
The ecosystem. I always say ecosystem, and she laughs at me for saying it. But really creating an interconnected ability to reduce accidents across the U.S. and the globe by utilizing technology like VR, AR, and things that will be able to identify, without going into too much detail, but identify what's happening and mitigate risks before they happen. It's the proactive approach to it. Everything right now is reactive. So when we're looking at the roadmap and going forward, it's how do we give construction companies and other markets the ability to proactively get in front of some of these risks and incidences that take place?
With that in mind, I love the fact that you called out, that's probably such an important consideration in your line of work, is proactivity versus reactivity. I always use the very simplistic example of insurance, is that none of us, literally 0% of us, want to pay for car insurance, but it's there because when something happens, we're going to be very glad that we do. How do you navigate that? And I guess this is part a sales and marketing question, but also partly a positioning question, because you have such a powerful solution for the marketplace. Most people probably want to ignore it until they have to. How on board are people with that proactive approach, and what does it look like? Are they aware of it? I mean, what I really love, before I kick it back your way, what I really love about your website is you very clearly call out every day 1,000 workers suffer injuries due to preventable accidents, and that is an annual cost of $171 billion with a B dollars. That is a number that is at a scale that very few people understand what a billion actually means. So talk to us about that proactivity versus reactivity.
Yeah, I mean, it's even worse than that. I mean, it accounts for 20% of all workplace deaths. So, I mean, this is where being proactive, I mean, if you can save one life, one injury, I mean, it's worth it. So when we're looking at, as you said, insurance, we're looking at partnerships within insurance to provide some of that data back. If a company says, hey, yeah, we're willing to share the data, to say, okay, hey, how do we reduce your workman's comp by adopting SafetyVue and showing that based off of a time frame, we have reduced risks by X, and then allowing insurance companies to help reduce their workman's comp insurance and things of this nature. I say it's like the little chip you put in your car that tracks you to see if your insurance will reduce. SafetyVue can be that to the industry by tracking those analytic data, providing that feedback on how safe a company actually is. So,
yeah, on that note, here's what I'm excited for you to take us behind the scenes on, because listeners are hearing us talk about this proactive approach to preventing injuries and especially looking at what's happening on these job sites. They haven't seen your website like I have. They haven't done the research on SafetyVue just yet. Talk to us about those different solutions. What really stood out to me, I mean, you've got the hands that I can see on the website for SafetyVue Adaptive Training Engine, where I can actually be there in VR, in AR, seeing a construction machine and saying, okay, what am I actually going to do? Walk us through the different types of solutions that you have brought to the marketplace.
Yeah, so it starts with our analytics platform, which is SafetyVue Insights. So that is where they can upload documents, or it will actually connect to live footage on the job site. And this is pretty much the analyzing feature of it, identifying any safety risk in real time, not just after an accident happens. It actually identifies, if people aren't wearing their PPE correctly, or if you have a lot of workers on site about to back in, from a telehandler and run into things, and it will actually prompt training based on those trends. And then our training is adaptable, so it will change the environment in real time based on the user's needs. And then the component that you saw with the hands, we also offer the VR option where they can train together, because most telehandlers and heavy equipment, they need a spotter, but they don't train together. So with our platform, they actually allow this to be trained together in the same environment.
And part of the problem, so if you're on a telehandler, you need a spotter to be able to say, hey, don't back into that wall. But how do you get people to work collaboratively and train in a dynamic environment based off user response? And this is really how that whole system is powered, by utilizing data points, safety, end-of-day safety logs. They can be uploaded, media, video, and analyzing real-time footage to then see what the trend is, see where they can get proactive, where their compliance is going to end up. And then the proactive part is really putting that in play, right? So now we can say, hey, we're seeing an increase in PPE, people not wearing their PPE, prompt training for PPE, right? So now you're getting in front of it. So as your mind starts losing that retention of that data, and you start seeing these risks happen, now flag it for more training, not just, hey, every year I need you to check all these boxes.
Or wait for an accident to happen and then react to that. It's really identifying those subtle hints, that you have before an accident happens, and then mitigating those risks by training.
Yeah, it's cool hearing that 30,000 foot view, because you're introducing so many incredible, important industries. I'm hearing data, which is moving faster than ever before at any point in history. I'm, of course, hearing software. I'm hearing hardware. For example, when it comes to the world of VR, I'm a tech geek. I love, for example, Apple Vision Pro has blown my mind. It's such a cool piece of hardware, but of course, it's only powered by really great software as well. So, and obviously AI is this big force that's playing into the development of all of these intersections. What's your take on it? What's holding us back, or what's enabling us to go into this better future? Are you pushing the limits when it comes to the software front? Or do you have those hardware considerations? Can you get your hands on enough data? Is that possible? What's your take on where we are with regards to all of these important tech developments?
Yeah, we're really pushing the bounds on the cutting edge technology and implementation of the systems, right? Even to the AR perspective. You have considerations like cell coverage or Wi-Fi coverage, power. Then we're looking at new hardware's coming out, working with engineering companies to make a SafetyVue branded. Part of what our simulator, when we built it out, allowed for more ADA compliance. You can move it through a hallway or a doorway. It's not just, here it is, stick it on the floor. But really looking at it on how do we get it in the hands of as many people? Look at the pricing aspect, look at mobility aspects. And everything we do when we look at it is ease of use, user-centric, and being able to provide it to as many people to save as many lives. But technology is moving at a pace, and AI, it's here, and it's how do we utilize AI for good? We're several platforms out there utilizing AI as more of like, hey, we'll show you this, or we'll help make you more efficient on an email or something. But how do we utilize it to really get to the human factor? And that is where SafetyVue, where we're driving towards. We use it to parse information in an efficient way, then to provide that back, not just as an AI catchphrase.
Yeah, Tim, you said the word, so I'm going to go there with you both. You said implementation. And of course, having an amazing solution is one thing. Helping others actually implement it, actually take action on. I'll tell you, as a podcaster, I wish that everyone would take action from every single episode that we put out, but the truth is, obviously not everybody does that. Talk to us about, because I know that both of you care deeply, not about putting great solutions into the world, but about those great solutions actually making a difference. What does that implementation process look like as you support the people who are using SafetyVue's suite of solutions?
Yeah, so implementation really starts, sign up. I was in hardware implementation for years in operations. So I've learned how to make it more efficient, who to bring on. We talk to more VARs on the hardware side so we can maintain on the software side, and really putting together great software that works with hardware that we're utilizing. And then making sure that support, while I love offshore for certain talent and certain things, we need to make sure the support is onshore to where it could really help on the tech side, the usability, and get the explanation to how they need to understand it. And some of the problems with offshore is sometimes that's not the people in place. So making sure that SafetyVue maintains a US-based support desk. As far as implementation, if they go outside of insights into the hardware side of it, then that is really make sure our partners that install understand what they're doing, understand how to relay that to our customer base, and then long-term support contracts and things like that.
Yeah, it's fun having both of you here on the air, because Tim, you're talking about pricing strategy. Obviously, we're talking about the solution, but you're also talking about SafetyVue as a business itself. And I've got two of SafetyVue's chief officers in front of me here today. What does that executive time look like? I'm always so fascinated from fellow business owners what their executive time looks like. We've all heard that old adage of working not just in your business, but also working on your business. What do your strategy sessions look like? Is it something you both commit to? Does it happen over the dinner table? I'd love some of those insights.
Yes, it does. It's definitely a day and night job. And it is discussed at the dinner table. Our kids are actually pretty involved with it as well. We get their input. Sometimes I will even ask them, like, "Hey, I'm going to explain this, and repeat it after me. Make sure that you understand it too." and they will. And they've actually been little marketers for us too. They've made some connections out in the world. So,
yep.
I love that. Give us some insights there, because I know that when you look towards the future, obviously, it's really cool to think about the next generation of Wolters can also be leading the SafetyVue charge, because that's the truth about businesses that make those positive impacts is they withstand the test of time. I'd love to hear that forward-looking roadmap, because I know that you both think so differently, and it's easy to look forward and think about how quickly AI is evolving. I would imagine that your feature set is going to be evolving. I would imagine that you've got new solutions that are coming on the horizon. How do you make those decisions? What do your future plans look like?
Yeah, so our C-level, we get together, we meet every Monday just to take a look at product and roadmap. Then as far as the future of our kids, part of this started there. So looking in technology, while technology is not really going to replace humans in some positions, there's other positions that are going to be. And when we look to the future, it's how do we help generations after us, even to the point, like I'm teaching a capstone project around what SafetyVue can do, as well as we're starting up a thing here in Kentucky in our town to work with the local college to help students become entrepreneurs in collaboration with like Amplify at Louisville and some other folks, Key Horse Capital, to stand up a program that allows for entrepreneurship. One of the things we got out of that was people don't know where to start. They have an idea, but they don't know how to implement. They don't know how to push that over. So we're really trying to not only build SafetyVue and build that up, but support youth, support students in their entrepreneur journey, and maybe one of them will be on your show someday.
Gosh, I love that. You are preaching to the choir here, because I'm a big believer that entrepreneurship changed lives. We all, the three of us collectively, we have all learned so much, not just about business, but about life through the lens of entrepreneurship. So you are doing such deeply meaningful and impactful work. I'm going to continue putting you both on the spot here, because it's not every day that we get to have couple co-founders on here. You're probably, I would argue that in close to 1,100 episodes, maybe the fifth or sixth couple co-founders that we've had here on the air. Listeners always love hearing behind the scenes. So I'm going to put both of you on the spot to talk about either separation of duties or the combination of duties. How do you both separate, especially considering that you both have such different backgrounds and skill sets? What does that separation or combination of duties look like between the two of you?
I'll go. I learned real quick, well, in business and in this, is we have to stay in our lanes. I'm raw. I'm more construction mind, tech mind, innovation. She keeps my mind at bay because she looks from a user side of it on what's going to look better, what's going to sell better. And so she has to keep me in check a lot because my brain just goes sometimes. So maintaining our own lanes, and we learned this. I actually hired her at the company I work for, and we learned there, right? Your job is here, my job is here. As long as we stick to those jobs, everything grows, and we don't butt heads. And I can say we haven't actually butted heads in I don't know how long, if at all. So
yeah, no, I mean, I think it works out. Like you said, he's the innovator. So he's the creator. His mind will go and go and go. And I try to be there for support. I try to, hey, this might be a barrier down the road. This, let's back this up, or let's focus on this. And I don't know, we kind of balance each other out. It actually works out.
And everything we do when we're hiring, when we're looking at the company, who's in the company, it's around our values. Our values spelled builders. We are builders. Even to the point my dad used to tell me, you don't have to know everything, but you need to understand where you lack and bring people around that will support that mission, that understand what you're doing, and then can fill those gaps for you. So when we look at who we're hiring in, how we're building teams, it's around culture, values, and filling gaps to where everybody can help each other throughout the process. So
everybody's a piece of the puzzle. So.
Yes, I love that. Listeners, you may not all be able to see Tim and Chelsie like I can right now, unless you're watching us on YouTube. But the fact that when I asked that question, they both smiled tells me that they have found the formula that works for both of them. So huge kudos to you, Tim and Chelsie. I love the way that you navigate this together. I think that that's such an important thing, because you both clearly acknowledge the fact that together you get to go so much farther. And I think that it manifests not only in the way that you two work together and in what SafetyVue is doing with your team, but also even broader than that. Tim, you spoke about the work that you're both doing in entrepreneurial circles. We can all go so much further together. And that's why this show exists as well. So huge thanks to the way that you support those entrepreneurial dreams. As we come towards the close, I still want to squeeze in a few more questions with you both, because I want to ask about the fact that you both had such awesome careers even before teaming up for SafetyVue. What was that entrepreneurial transition like? Because I always remind listeners that you were also living life along the way, having a family, doing other things as well. So what did the transition period look like? How is it different from what you had anticipated? What were some of those obstacles in the transition? I'd love to hear that backstory.
Why don't you take it first?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been a learning curve. I will say that. I haven't been as much in the business world. Like I said, mine's mostly been in nursing, but I think it still brings that value to what we're doing in a different perspective. So I've definitely had to learn a lot of new terms, almost like back when I was in nursing school. But yeah, it's definitely been a journey.
For me, even at our wedding, my dad talked about how I always had an entrepreneur mindset and wanted to create and do stuff. But all through my career, it's always been learn more, absorb more information, figure out how to push bounds. And I got to a point where, because of my daughter and because of my friend, that this was the time. The stars align, technology is where it needs to be to really put this in play. And I'm not big on working for somebody, which now I'm working for the whole company, but the onus obviously falls on our shoulders to make sure the business grows, make sure the people are taken care of. And that's a stress of its own, but that's a stress I like. I have control over the destiny. We can push forward, and it's working pretty well so far.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely helps. I think you always have to remember your why. Why did you start this? And it gets stressful, but we have personal reasons why we started this.
Right.
And we have a personal mission. So it's, we want to save lives. So that's what keeps us going.
Yes, I love that. It's funny. It's right in line with what we always hear about us crazy entrepreneurs, is that we'll quit a 40-hour-a-week job working for somebody else in order to work 80 hours a week working for ourselves. So it's really cool to see that is your real life story, and the fact that you get to do it together and support so many other lives on your team, as well as, of course, the lives that you're literally saving in the construction world. It's so cool to hear that. So I always ask this at the end of every episode. That's your best piece of advice for listeners, knowing that they're both entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs. Today, we don't just get one best piece of advice, we get two, because we've got two of you here today. So I'm excited to hear from both of you, because it is such a broad question, and you not only are subject matter experts in what you do, but you're also one of us. You're also fellow entrepreneurs. So with that in mind, whoever wants to jump in first can, but I want to hear that one single best piece of advice from each of you for our listeners as they go on their own entrepreneurial journeys from here.
I mean, I would say surround yourself with the people who really understand and value what you're doing. You have, like we mentioned, you got to bring in those puzzle pieces who complete you. So it's really about who you surround yourself with, make them feel comfortable, make them feel, comfortable speaking up, and just build that culture of trust.
Resilience. You can't just quit when it gets hard, and it's going to get really hard, and it's going to make you sit down and question everything that you know or thought you knew. But you have to have the mental stability, perseverance to just push through anything in your way and believe in yourself. And I think that's what entrepreneur mind shift goes to, is having that confidence in yourself and your abilities and that perseverance.
Yeah, so well said. Important advice from both of you. I'm super grateful for you sharing all of these things here in today's episode. But even beyond that, truth be told, I'm really grateful for entrepreneurs that view themselves as part of a bigger shift and a bigger impact, because the legacy that you're both leaving, not just with what you're up to with SafetyVue, but all the external work and the way that you show up in the world, it's inspiring for everybody who gets to hear your message, who gets to see the work that you're doing. So on that note, I've obviously seen your business in action on your website. You have so many cool examples of what your products look like, what your solutions are, the commitment, your values shine through in your messaging. So I know that listeners will be keen to see some of the stuff that we've talked about here today in action. I love how right in big, bold font at the top of your website, it boils it straight down to predict hazards, prevent accidents, protect your workforce. It's such a clear mission that you're both on that has echoed through all the things you've said today. So drop those links on us. Where can listeners go to find out more about SafetyVue and all the great stuff that both of you, Tim and Chelsie, are up to?
Yeah, you can visit our website at safetyvue.net, and you can also listen to Tim's podcast, The Safety Factor.
That's on our website. And then LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and X is all SafetyVue. You can find us at all the socials.
Yes, and listeners, you already know the drill. We're making it as easy as possible for you to find all of those links down below in the show notes, no matter where it is that you're tuning into today's episode. It is always great to have a fellow podcaster here on the air, because listeners, as I said so many times throughout our conversation today, Tim and Chelsie show up in service to others. It is such an important part of their mission. So go check out all the great work that they're doing. It's why I always say that success leaves clues. So definitely find those links in the show notes. Otherwise, Tim, Chelsie, on behalf of myself and all the listeners worldwide, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.